In this video, we're going to take a look at Maven Wagon. Now, Maven Wagon is a unified Maven API. What it is basically an abstract, a transport abstract for moving stuff to and from your Maven repository, your Maven runtime. So you're going to be getting artifacts out of Maven repositories, or you'll be publishing them to Maven repositories. It gives you a unified API so you can plug and play different providers in for that communications layer when you're talking to Maven repositories. The vast majority of the time, you're going to be using HTTP or HTTPS, and most of the time, you don't need to do any configuration at all there. We will be looking at when you need to set up username and passwords. That will be coming up in the class. But sometimes in corporate environments, you might need to set up proxy settings for your network settings. Even that's becoming more and more rare. The network engineering guys seem to be getting better at that, where the proxy settings are more and more transparent to the end user. So it's pretty rare that I see this used anymore. I know it's been a long time since I've had to go in and modify or configure a provider for Maven Wagon. A lot of times you don't even think about it. You're just using HTTP and it just works. But I want to make you aware of this because let's take a quick look at the providers. As far as talking to repositories, we do have a number of different providers. One can be a file, HTTP, obviously. And they also have a lightweight HTTP. Then we have FTP, SSH, SCP, WebDAV, and SCM. And the Maven guys called out that the SCM is in progress. Obviously, there's going to be different providers for SCM in there. And let's take a look at the actual hierarchy here and then just make a little more sense to you. So Maven Wagon is kind of a moniker for the provider API. So when Maven is working with it, kind of abstracts whether it's going across from a file or FTP or SSH. The API is unified, so the functionality is the same through the API, and then the underlying implementation will change, and you configure the actual provider. But Maven itself is going to be using the one API. So really nice abstraction layer that the Maven team did here. And most of the time, the majority of the time, you don't have to set it up so infrequently. I almost didn't include this in the course, but I decided to call out Apache Wagon specifically because if you do run into a situation where you do need, like WebDAV, there is a tool for it inside of Maven. So I just want to make sure that you're aware of it. Probably the most common case is you're going to be in a corporate environment and need to set up some type of proxy, and you'll do that through Maven Wagon. So if you ever need to do something like a proxy, look at the Maven documentation. It's well documented for the different providers as to some of the common functionality there. Main thing is I wanted you to be aware of underneath the covers when we're talking to Maven repositories, there's an entire library and a lot of different techniques and protocols that we can use to move files to and from Maven repositories.